So if we go to fundamentals, the AEA mission is to increase the quality of research in economics. And CSWEP's mission is to promote and track the status of women in the economics profession. I'm going to make a couple assumptions. I love models. Okay, that gender is not a factor in the ability to produce quality research, nor is race. That teaching and mentoring are an important component of producing good researchers, and that understanding research results leads to informed policy decisions, and, or at least it can in some worlds, increase well-being generally. So this is an important mission we're all on, and thus the economics profession needs the best people it can get, okay, the best and the brightest, and that includes women according to this model. And if you look at the status of women starting in 1972, where something like 2% of full professors were women, and almost none in the top departments. Things have changed dramatically since then and improved dramatically since then, but there's still very serious problems. At the undergraduate level, while women are an increasing fraction of baccalaureates, the fraction majoring of them, of these women baccalaureates majoring in economics is actually going down. So that's the undergraduate level. PhD student level, for years, the trend had been up in the number of the representation of women at the PhD level, but it's actually stagnated, and there's some evidence that it's going down, and perhaps going down more in top 20 departments than other departments. That's very preliminary, but it's clearly something that Maggie's going to look into. Okay. For faculty, there's still a leaky pipeline for women faculty, by which I mean, and has been defined this way for years, the higher the rank, the lower the share of women. Okay, so you have a lot more assistant professor, much higher share of assistant professors who are women than of tenured associate professors, than of full professors, and so forth. And there's a special issue that comes out looking at data, and that's at tenure time as compared to men. Women's assistant professors disproportionately fall off the academic ladder.
So thank you, Margie, and thanks to everybody. Margie previewed some of what I'm going to say right now, but I just wanted to give you the preliminary results from this year's annual survey of about 250 economics departments around the country. I want to first thank Yulia Shabra, who's here with me, who was helping me on New Year's Eve prepare these figures and slides. So I just want to give you all a preview. I should emphasize that this is preliminary. There are, believe it or not, some schools that have not yet sent in their data, and there are other schools that sent it in basically on Christmas Eve. And we're dedicated, but there are still some schools that are missing. The survey, as Margie mentioned, has been going on for 43 years. There are currently 250 economics departments that are in the frame for the survey, that are in the sample. That includes all PhD producing departments, and we do now, in fact, have a 100% response rate from those 124 departments. There are about 125 departments that have undergraduate and master's degrees and no PhDs. We have about 80%, a little bit more than that, have responded so far. We hope to get responses from more of them before we produce the final report. I would like to say that we are extremely grateful to the network of CSWEP liaisons for helping us to get those responses in. This was the first year I've been involved in running the survey, so I sort of relied on Jennifer Sosi, who, of course, if you all don't know, we are all extraordinarily appreciative of Jennifer's work in sending out the surveys and processing a lot of this, as well as doing so much else for CSWEP. But I think we got the responses back much, much faster this year, and it was partly because of things we did differently, but it was in large part because of the efforts of the CSWEP liaison network to get those responses in. So thank you, all of you, for doing that. I really appreciate it. A couple things I want to just emphasize. I think both Margie and Janet mentioned this, but I'm going to give you a little bit more information. Women are in the, we have made progress. We like to say that. We don't want to discourage ourselves too much. But women are in the minority at every level of sort of status in the economics profession, from graduate students to full professors. The higher the rank, as you move up from graduate students to assistant professors to associate to full, the lower the percentage of women, and the higher the intensity of research in the job, the lower the lower the percentage of women. And in particular, one of the things that we're looking at is the large percentage of women who are in non-tenure track ranks altogether. Those are those instructional positions in both research-oriented departments and non-research-oriented departments are heavily female. We have, as I said, made a lot of progress over the last half century, but more is needed. And in particular, as Janet mentioned, the entry of women into the economics profession seems to have flatlined. Women are more likely to complete PhDs, so the one place where women are, it looks like the percentage of women is actually higher is in completion. Someone said to me as we were discussing this, oh, well, people expect women to drop out even still, but that is less likely to the case than for men. But the share of women in entering PhD programs overall has been flat, and in top 20 programs in particular, it looks like it's falling. So we're just going to look at these. And again, I do want to emphasize these are preliminary. The final report will be in the CSWEP news and on the CSWEP website and sent to the AEA. So this is the figure that Janet had up there. If you look, the blue line is first-year students in PhD programs. You can see back around 2000, it got up to almost 40% of all students entering PhD programs were women. It's now about 31%, and it's been basically at that level for the last 10 to 15 years. The red line is the percent completing PhDs, and you can see that actually the percent completing PhDs is above that because women are more likely to finish. The green line is assistant professors. Again, that's now up over 25%. It's certainly better than where it was when CSWEP started. And if you look at the progress for associate professors, it's gone up quite a bit. For full professors, it's gone up quite a bit. But obviously, there's both a pipeline that takes time to make those changes, so you can see that there's progress that takes time. But having improvements in the pipeline requires improvements at the beginning of the pipeline as well, and that's actually where we've stopped seeing progress. So that's what I just wanted to say a little bit more about now. Here's just a little table showing you the share of women in first-year classes in PhD programs. If you look at all 125 PhD programs in the country, it's about a third, and that's been pretty flat over the last 20 years. If you look at the top 20 programs, it was below 20%. Before the turn of the century, it got up to about 25%. It stays there, but if you look at the data over the last 5 years, it's actually fallen to 1 in 5. And we've been seeing this the last few years. It seemed like the top 20 programs had lower levels, but I kept thinking, oh, this is a blip. But when we saw it again this year, I just decided to take a little bit more of a look at this to see what's going on. And one thing I can tell you is that that there's a lot of heterogeneity across the top 20, that there are 3 programs in the top 20 that over the last 5 years have had more than 40% of their incoming PhD students are female, and there are 8 programs in the top 20, actually this is 21, there are 21 schools in the top 20 according to U.S. News and World Report. So 8 of them actually have less than a quarter of the women of their first-year classes are women. So the other thing I would just say about this is it's not that the top 5 departments are doing a lot better or a lot worse. There's actually heterogeneity within the top 10 as well. So a couple things that we've been talking about in CSWEP about this one is to try to provide some information back to departments, because I'm not sure that departments are even sort of tuned into this. And so we're going to try to put together trends for individual departments relative to a relevant benchmark for them. And just as a final point, I want to say something which Margie also emphasized, which is that we can do this because we've been doing this departmental level survey with the support of the AEA, and we've had the kind of high response rates we've had for a very long time. And this is really a model. We've now been approached by a number of other disciplines because this survey is a model for other disciplines that are trying to address these issues. So we haven't solved everything, but at least we've got data that will at least help us to hopefully figure out where we're making progress and where not. There was a question, yeah. So I actually don't remember what the 3 schools are, but I also didn't, the way I broke it out, I didn't want to, the point wasn't to identify individual schools and to call them out, but rather to sort of indicate that this is something which some schools are doing better at than others, and we should be able to learn from the schools that are doing well, and sort of diffuse best practices across other schools. But I think we want to focus on what it is we should all be doing rather than identifying good guys and bad guys. At least that's my sense of CSWEP's role in this. Yeah.
Well, to defend myself, I have a theory that a lot of 2/3 of those are state schools and that they have certain obligations. So it's not just identifying the facts, it's also actually changing the legal structure.
So I can tell you, so there are schools that are private that are in the very top and in the very bottom. There are schools in the top 5 that are in the top and the bottom. It's not just about who does public finance and labor. There are schools in the top of that chair that do public finance, and there are schools in the bottom that do public finance and labor. I mean, all the different explanations that have sort of been offered in the last couple of days, I can tell you, it's not. It's not a simple answer, and it's not simply about the bans on affirmative action. I don't know that those are as relevant. I mean, Michigan has that kind of a ban. I know California does, and I think that there's probably a lot of leeway in graduate and PhD admissions that means that those bans are, while they have may have a detrimental effect in terms of undergraduate recruiting. Actually, I think in most places where they've banned discrimination on the basis of gender in state schools, that means that they've admitted more women because as the mother of a high school senior female, I think most people know that girls are doing better under many standard measures in high schools, and that the gender balance in private schools is actually achieved by affirmative action for men. Okay. Other questions? That wasn't what I was up here to talk about, but yes.
How persistent those differences are? Is it that schools bounce around from year to year, or are there some schools that are consistent?
So that I tried to look at really, I mean, again, sort of on the way here, I don't have a good answer to that. There certainly isn't one school that's always at the bottom and one school that's always at the top. If you looked at the 2015 departmental level data, it's not very different from what you see when you look at the 5-year averages, which is what I just showed you. Yep. Yeah. I think the other thing, and again, we just don't know this. This is the first time we've tried to dig into this at all. And the data are preliminary, and we're just really starting to look at this. But it looks to me like the share in PhD programs overall is not falling. It's not going up, but it's not falling, and that suggests that there is a difference between what happens in the top 20 and what happens in overall. Okay. Well, our last message to you, and I'll turn you back over to Margie, is to visit cswep.org. There's just an enormous range, wealth of resources there. So I appreciate everything everybody's doing, and I'll turn things back over to Margie. Thank you.
The second part is the paperweight part. Okay, so we have 3 departing board members who have served, just done incredible amount of work for CSWEP. The CSWEP board had great ideas, executed them, helped others do theirs. So Linda Goldberg, would you come forward, please? So Linda is rotating off the board, but she has done so many things for CSWEP, including with Tara in starting the mentoring breakfast. Hey, I like this. And sort of in my kitchen cabinet from time to time, and a wonderful contributor and worker for CSWEP, and has represented us so well. And I give this with heartfelt thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Kevin, would you come forward, please? So Kevin Lang has been an incredibly supportive, hardworking, innovative member of the board for 1 1/3 terms. And we have now a procedures, protocols, and some other P word manual, which we will pass on to Shelley. It's in skeleton form now, but it will be really up and running by the time she takes over. And Kevin has kept us on track in so many amazing ways, pointing out the incentives we might have built into mistaken policies. Anyway, Kevin, my heartfelt thanks for
Thank you.
all your service. It's been really a pleasure working with you.
Likewise.
Oh. This network, are there members of the network here? Would you raise your hand if you're a member of the network? I just want to applaud you guys. So CSWEP has competitive entry paper sessions at the AEA meetings. This past year we had 109 submissions for 24 slots and eventually 8 publications in the AEA. And that number has risen significantly since we had the liaison network. So have applications this summer, AEA, Summer Fellows Program, and every other thing where we contact people who want responses. Responses are way up, and I think this is going to accelerate. The network's pretty big now, but we'd probably grow it by about 50 more people if we can. Finally, I just want to talk a little bit about the current board. I'll put their names up here, and if I can. Okay, oh, that's too small to read. But would the current board members just rise and be acknowledged, please? That includes you, Maggie, and Tara. Okay, so we have some new board members, including Justin Wolfers. And are there old board members here? Or former board members, I should say. So would you rise? Yes, Hank Farber. Let's see. This is great. And let's not forget former chairs. Are there former chairs here? Oh, great. Thank you.